back to my channel. This is Tita Lavinia of Tita's Fashion Tree, and for this episode, I'm going to finally give you my Binibining Pilipinas 2022 review, Heartbreaks and Triumphs. So please make sure you stick around, please subscribe to the channel, as well as hit that bell notification button for your weekly pageant fix. Hey guys, I hope that you're doing okay. I want to apologize to everyone. It took about a week for me to do this review for you. A lot of you would say, panis na tita, wala ka nang i-discuss. But here I am discussing this with you. So I know I've already told you about my voice. Ursula took my voice. So please bear with me because it's going to be a little difficult for me. It is, of course, also asthma season. It has been raining for quite some time. So I've been coughing and, managing this loss of voice, knowing that I have to do this for you. But, this whole time that I was resting, I was also able to take in a lot of your comments from the live session we did right after the show. And it gave me an opportunity to really watch the full show as it was shown during the live stream. So don't worry, I'm going to be taking this one in. This episode, I feel is going to be rather lengthy, but I'm going to try my best to make everything concise and condensed for you without losing a lot of the details that you guys are so used to. So because I know this will be rather lengthy, I'm going to hit you with something that I know you came here for. So let's talk about the first thing on our minds when we talk about Binibining Pilipinas 2022, because unfortunately the beautiful winners were overshadowed by this one incident. And I'm talking about the delay that happened during the announcement of Miss International. Now, it has been days. In fact, by the time that I release this, it will be a week since the coronation. And we haven't heard anything from Binibining Pilipinas yet. We've heard that they were in the middle of making a statement, but after a week, there hasn't been anything from the organization. Cornerstone Management, the management team behind Catriona Gray and Nicole Cordoves, the hosts for the event, already made an announcement, already made an official statement on what happened. And Nicole, as well as Kat, also published a joint statement. It was a little vague for me, but they said their piece. Even the newest execom, Lara Kigaman, already posted something. It was still a little vague when they posted photos of the deliberation from the deliberation room, but it was pretty much the closest that we could get to someone from the inside actually telling us that nothing was supposed to really happen, that everything was accurate. So let's establish the facts. It seems that the sequencing of the announcement was correct, the titles were correct, and the names that were given for the titles were also correct. So if we're going to go back, there isn't supposed to be a reason why it had to be delayed, why it stopped the way it did. So I've heard several versions of this. I've heard I have a version of someone who actually works for SGV. I also have a version from some members of the production team. So it's a little difficult to really present what happened because there are varying versions. But I guess what I will be telling you is, I think, the closest version to what actually happened. Now, let me just give you a little bit of a disclaimer, because right after the show, I went on live only a few minutes right after the show. I went straight to my hotel room and discussed this live updates for you. And while I was doing that, of course, I had like photos taken with some fans and some of the folks who also watched the show. And there were so many people trying to tug me and, tell me that they have proof, they have videos. And at one point, my companion, Archibald, even stepped in and said, why don't you just send me all of these videos and then I'll forward them to Tita Lavinia. I'm saying this because there seems to be a movement on TikTok keen on reposting what I said, or maybe chopping my full video and make a whole narrative saying that the delay was actually caused by me, or that I had that I floated the idea that someone else should win. I mean, guys, I took you to where I was seated during my previous video. So I guess you already have an idea that I was so far from the actual stage that I absolutely had no idea what was going on. When there was a delay in the announcement, we had the same thinking as you guys. We also thought that it was going to be, sorry about this, a Steve Harvey moment. So I don't think you can take that away from us. I think we're still traumatized by that whole Steve Harvey announcement. Yeah, hoopla. So every time we would encounter a delay or maybe some members going up the stage, some members of the production team, then that's exactly what we would all think about. And so I am always very careful in presenting you with these things because they are still under GG territory. These things that I will be sharing with you, you can take this with a grain of salt. You can believe this or you may choose not to, but let me share them to you anyway. So, first of all, had nothing to do with it. I was as clueless as all of you, but apparently, what happened was during the deliberation, those who were inside the deliberation room were members of SGV, members of the Execom, as well as the judges. The floor director, who was at the stage, who was just manning the whole thing, apparently asked an assistant to copy the results from the deliberation because SGV apparently printed the results from the deliberation room. But the assistant had strict instructions not to copy or not to take a photo of the results and to copy it using pen and paper. So that was exactly what the assistant did. But somewhere along the way, the assistant probably got confused because that paper, which went viral, which was captured by the photographer of Entertainment News Portal, Mr. Ryan Aguas, who we all know in the industry as Mr. HD because he uses really, really clear cameras. Apparently, this was the paper that went viral because that paper was submitted to the floor manager or the floor director so that members of the production team could pan the camera accordingly to the right girl. So when Intercon was announced, and this was Gabby, the floor managers or the assistants within the floor management team panicked because it wasn't what was written on that piece of paper because she confused international with intercon. And this was where the whole hoopla started. One of the floor managers went up to stage. They had a little bit of a disagreement, as was featured in the video that was posted on Titas of Pageantry. And if we are still waiting for an official announcement for Binibining Pilipinas, that might not even come to fruition. Because I heard from a little birdie that that simple mistake could have been rectified, could have been let go, but it put the credibility of SGV on the line. It also put the credibility of Binibining Pilipinas on the line. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is any truth to what I heard that Binibining Pilipinas organization might go into filing a lawsuit instead. So again, guys, I am sharing this with you. These are unconfirmed reports, but I'm just saying that out of all of the versions I heard, this seemed to be the closest to what happened during that delay. So I want to talk about the competition proper because I absolutely had a great time. I had a blast. That's why when I was doing my live with you, I couldn't really agree with a lot of what you guys were saying, apart from the fact that the show was lengthy and the fact that I wasn't really too keen on the show starting so late. So let me just go back to this. Now, this competition started as early as April 22nd. The first appearance of the girls were from the Santa Cruzan, which was around May. So this was really a lengthy pageant, including the pre-pageant activities. So I guess a lot of people really expected that this would be a well thought out show, that this would be a well executed show, because they had so much time to really think about how they're going to present this, how they're going to finally work on this rebranding that they started from last year. And I think a lot of the people were really very disappointed with how it was presented during the live stream. But I'm really quite glad that I went and watched it live because at least I could give you an idea on how it was, how it got on when it was live and how I felt when I watched this on YouTube. I honestly didn't understand the delay. Some people were saying that it was because it was the only time slot left for the TV station. Well, yeah, that I could definitely understand. But then it got pushed even further because some also said that PBA, which was also shown at the same channel, extended. So we all had to adjust. First of all, the pageant was on a Sunday, and it just was so unreasonable to have a pageant that would usually run for maybe 3 hours, in some cases, even 4 hours. We didn't want that. But yeah, I mean, come to think of it, 3 hours is pretty reasonable. It becomes unreasonable when you start the show at almost 11 p.m. Now, of course, in our favor, that's fine. We got to have dinner, we got to make chica chica. But on one side, a lot of the viewers would still have to work Monday morning. In fact, one of our companions was a doctor who was just dressed to the nines. He went with us for dinner but couldn't join us because he had an early start the next morning. So I thought that this was really missed opportunity to really push for a live pageant that late. So when I was there, I was also a little surprised because Araneta is usually filled when it comes to Binibining Pilipinas. And when I was there, I think it was just Tita B and I who was just providing, I don't know, entertainment. We were so loud at where we were seated that you could really feel how loud we were because we were the only ones screaming our lungs out, dancing like crazy. So it felt a little lonely, but as soon as the crowd picked up, even with a smaller crowd, and I'm saying this because we're talking about Araneta, we're talking about BBP, the whole Coliseum wasn't filled. And I heard that they didn't sell tickets from like several areas of the arena, but even so, I just didn't feel like it was filled the way it was filled in the previous years. But I think the energy of the people really made up for the fact that we weren't as strong as a group when we were there. And you could really feel the distinction of watching it live during Miss Universe Philippines, where everyone was like more behaved, not so loud really, but it's really different also when you go to Binibining Pilipinas and watch it at Smart Araneta because you could really feel the energy. It really radiates, and I lost my voice. So if that's not proof enough of how fun it was when you were watching it, I don't know what is. But yeah, I really wasn't happy with the delay, and so I just noticed that with all of the activities of Binibining Pilipinas, they're always quite delayed. And I'm not just talking about the final show. It was the same thing with the parade. It was the same thing with the Santa Cruzan. It was the same thing with the press presentation. So on this note, I think that they really have to step up in terms of timekeeping. So uh, I want to go now to the production because I think a lot of these grievances are directed towards the production. I'm just not so sure who the production people are, if they were the same as the production people from the 2021 edition that won them an annual award because I felt that was more organized. However, I do know that the ladies in question, the ones who disrupted the program, I heard from a little birdie that these ladies were unfamiliar. These weren't the same people who worked with the Binibining Pilipinas crew in the previous year. So this is probably the reason why they weren't in sync with a lot of things. This is probably the reason why a lot of us knew that even if you place high during the deliberation or during the score tallying at the deliberation, there is still a huge possibility that you won't get a crown or that they would place someone else for the title precisely because at Binibining Pilipinas, they deliberate, they don't base the high winners against the scores that were garnered. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the stage, about the lighting. I'm really happy that they actually had a simpler stage this time and they had the LEDs and they had a little bit of decoration at the back. I thought it was really good. When you enter the venue the first time, it does look rather impressive because it does look large. I don't know how it registered during live because a lot of you complained that it seemed a little smaller. I will say though that I wish they didn't have that round thing printed on the stage because it was just so distracting. I did not know what that was for. And I also wish that they cleaned this one up because just like you, I also noticed the tape markers. It was really distracting and it took away from the gloss factor of the actual show. The camera panning for me, this was also rather problematic. And I know this because when I was reviewing a lot of the footage, yeah, I will agree with you. Although there were some improvements, especially with the cinematic and sweeping shots, I felt that the shots that were important, especially for swimsuit as well as evening gown, we didn't really get to see a lot of the legwork. We didn't really get to see a lot of the movements. In fact, I particularly remember Chelsea turning for the evening gown, and we didn't see everything. We didn't see the full effect. So, moving forward, I wish that this could have been rectified because it has been years. We have been complaining about camera angles and camera panning, and I don't know. I think that my patience, and I'm sure your patience is also thinning as we have urged Binibining Pilipinas to work on this every freaking year. So, blurry, smoky, dark, and not HD. I honestly thought that these were unbelievable observations because when I watched it live and I was really far away, I really felt it. I felt the impact. It was well lit, it was pink, it was nice. But when I was alone and when I watched the live stream, I definitely agree with you. It was just so missed opportunity that they couldn't tweak the HD value of the whole production. It was just so smoky when I was watching it, and they had fireworks or that like fountain on screen when SB19 played. Yeah, I was really very impressed when I was watching it in the venue, but when I reviewed it, I definitely agreed with you. The smoke didn't clear, so it felt like the screen had a veil, and it just really messed up with the HD quality. And another thing that I would also note, and this was the observation that you guys pointed out, was that the camera facing Kat and Nicole reverberated because it was positioned near or maybe in front of the speakers. And I don't know, just totally messed up everything. Now, Nicole and Kat, I love this tandem, and I think that they're both very able hosts. And I actually also like the mini Kumu setup, or I don't know if that was a Kumu setup or if that was just like a commentator setup with Samantha Bernardo and Edward Barbers. I thought that they were both eye candy. Edward Barbers for me was really a revelation. I think that in the next coming years, Binibining Pilipinas should tap this guy because he's really good at what he did. I want to talk a little bit about the judges also because the judges were really varied, and looking at them, you had a mix of beauty queens, you have a mix of dignitaries, you have people from the entertainment industry. I absolutely have no issues at all with having all of these judges because this is exactly what I've been campaigning for. I am quite over the idea of having an all-female judging panel because I feel like we have to be also inclusive with issues coming from the business sector, the entertainment sector, and the government as well. So I was really happy with the roster of judges. Let's talk about the involvement of P-pop. Now, I think, of course, the headliner for this event, for this pageant, was the involvement of SB19. Now, I know a lot of you, especially SB19 fans, have made kuyog and told me, Tita, maybe you're blind, maybe you don't know what you're talking about, because I did say that they were not in sync. But that was just me at one small area of their performance. I wasn't really able to zero in on their performance because if I am going to be very honest with you guys, every time there would be an intermission number, I would go out and try to post something because internet speed and internet availability at the venue was just nil. So I had to go out every time there would be singing just so I could try and update you guys real time. So peace. I'm sure they're amazing folks. They did really, really well. But I will say, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, that during the opening when they were doing all of their dance moves and their singing, I felt that the girls were just accessories. It was Binibining Pilipinas and they were there to serenade the girls and they were there as special guests, but it just seemed like it was their concert and that the girls were just an afterthought, which is really rather sad. But moving on, I was really happy to listen to original Filipino music. A lot of people were also not very keen on my Entrata's performance because the voices just kept on overlapping each other and everything just felt so rushed. But I was very happy for my. It reminded me of Victoria's Secret whenever you would have a really hot singer trying to go head to head with the girls at the back. So I thought that she did really well. But yes, the sounds and the cue, that really was problematic. But my favorite was actually the song from the evening gown competition. I thought that it was really fitting, and I was really happy that they continued with the tradition of really putting out catchy songs and songs that are really appropriate for talks about the universe, talks about being ethereal, talks about being just this otherworldly beauty. Now let's go to wardrobe. Now this is Justine Aliman's first foray into really styling at Binibining Pilipinas. I was so happy with the opening dresses. It felt festive. I think there was really a reference to the rainbow and the rainbow community. I thought that was really tastefully done. The swimsuits, there were two swimsuits that were featured. There was a black swimsuit with some print. It was a bikini for the ladies who didn't make it. For those who made it, they were in white bikinis. And if I'm being very honest with you, I wasn't too keen with the white bikini looks. I felt like it lacked support. I would have wanted to see more of the black swimsuit, but yeah, I wish that they would switch. Guys, I am filming this in the afternoon, so there are kids playing. So if you get to hear them, please give me a free pass. Now, the evening gown for me. So I will have another episode for the evening gowns, but let me just tell you, I wasn't overwhelmed with the evening gown looks. I'll tell you more about it, but I wish that I could have seen more spectacular designs. Yeah, I wasn't really blown away. So let's move on to top 12. Now, I think I'm also with you. I felt that top 12 or the cut from 40 to 12, I thought that was really severe. So the ones who made it were Yana Aduana, Diana Mackey, Jasmine Omai, Nicole Borromeo, Stacy Gabriel, Anne de Mesa, Harleen Budol, Ana Valencia, Chelsea Fernandez, Karen Lori Mendoza, Roberta Tamundong, and Gabby Bashano. Now, these ladies were asked to give a bit of a statement on what they wish to see in the Philippines in the next 6 years. So they want a little political, but you know what? I could give them a free pass on this. A lot of pageants are already doing this, so it might be good to get to listen to them. So when top 12 was called, of course, a lot of us were heartbroken, especially because some of our favorites didn't make it. Josh Di Maculangan of Albay did not make it. Cyril Payumo, who had exemplary performances from the press presentation leading up to the finals, also did not make it. And another favorite, Chrisella Liman, was nowhere to be found. Now, I want to go now to the swimsuit presentation because the swimsuit presentation for me, it was really promising. I thought that the camera panning was a lot better during swimsuit presentation. But of course, because everything just seemed so swift, everything just seemed so rushed, we didn't get to really capture a lot of the performances that these ladies really worked for. Having said this, if I were to choose who the best performer was during swimsuit, I will have to give that to Harleen Budol. I mean, she had the body, she swayed her hips, and what I liked about her performance was that when her name was announced, she charged towards the camera and she had wind. She had wind in her hair and it seemed like she was going to take off like an airplane, and I really liked that. Chelsea Fernandez and Yana Aduano were solid performers at swim for me, although the award for Best in Swimsuit went to Gabi Bashano, and rightly so, because even if her body was not as toned as the likes of Harleen Budol or maybe Roberta Tomondong or maybe Yana Aduana, you cannot deny the fact that she looked really striking. Her legs were extended, it was really long, and maybe the argument of not having the best physique will come into play because even Catriona Gray during her time, she wasn't the one with the best physique, but she had the confidence, she had the moves, and I think the same idea applied to Gabby's performance as well. Now, for the evening gown, like what I mentioned earlier, I really wasn't that blown away, but I thought that Chelsea Fernandez had a really remarkable performance for me. That Barbie turn, unfortunately, wasn't captured. I hope we could see like more footage of the full performance, but yeah, I'm gonna say more about that gown later on, but yeah, I thought that she performed really, really well at this segment. But again, the prize was won by Gabby Bashano because her presentation definitely had impact. Maybe the gown was a little simple for me, but the salakot really turned things around for Gabby. Now let's move on to Q&A. Now for Q&A, I like that the questions were varied. I like that they didn't give the girls really simple questions as if, it's already insulting to their intelligence. I also like that there was varying degree of difficulties and the fact that the question didn't just come from the judges, that they also employed that big screen at the back. And I feel like they should do this or that they should go towards this direction moving forward because sometimes you really can't hear the judge when they ask the questions. It's nice to see the questions in, literally a bigger picture. So I thought that Stacey Gabriel did a really good job during Q&A. It was just a little incomplete for me because she was asked a question about the difference of a historian and a marites. Now, a historian, I thought that she gave a really lovely argument to what a historian is. I wish that she had more time to explore what a marites is, and had she said Tita Lavinia, I think she would have been more successful. Yana Adwana for me did a really good job. She had conviction, but maybe towards the end she sounded more rehearsed, like it was something that she would practice all the time during her Q&A drills. But what I like about Yana's performance during Q&A was that it was ballsy. It was also rather tricky because you might think that it's just an opinion about women's body, but if you dig a little further, I think that it also gets a little controversial because the question and the tagline would allude to having control because of a discussion on abortion, something that a lot of Filipinos are not ready for. So maybe that hit Yana's chances a little bit. Now, I want to talk about Roan a little bit for you because I don't think we can sugarcoat this. She did not do so well at Q&A. I mean, she got confused, and this is what I've been saying all along. Roan is an able communicator. She can deliver, but she sometimes has a tendency of just going for it without really understanding, without really taking into consideration what was being talked about, what was being asked. And she sometimes has the tendency to just focus on the keywords. And this was exactly what happened. And she just locked in on essentials. I think what Ron was trying to say was something about communication, but it went on a narrative on her dad going to a vintage shop and then the telephone. But you know what? The moment she answered that, the moment it got confusing, I started saying that's perfect for MGI. We don't need a rocket scientist for MGI. We need someone with the same wavelength as Uncle Nawat. And for this reason, I thought she was just perfect. So let's move on to the results now. The results, Stacey Gabriel garnered second runner-up. I think a lot of people felt that she could have gotten higher, but I totally understand this. She's pretty young. Had she aced Q&A in its entirety, I think she would have gotten a crown. But she could grow, and second runner up will open a lot of opportunities for her. Harleen Budol got first runner up. I know a lot of people are still sore because she didn't end up winning MGI, but I think she's the biggest winner in this competition. If you tally all of her prizes, it's more than a million, guys. So I think that's more than what the actual winners got. Chelsea Fernandez got Miss Globe. I'm really happy about this. I did not get to predict this when we did our hot picks, but like what I've been saying, Chelsea is the pageant unicorn this edition. She's very young, and her face, her body, her everything can be a good fit at any of these titles. Gabby Bashano went for Intercontinental. I'm really happy. Gabby is a sentimental favorite of mine. I met her several times, so for me, Gabby being steady at the competition and getting that intercontinental crown is just a way to celebrate. I was really happy for that. MGI went to the Roberta Tamundong. She was obviously very surprised when she got that title. It would have been unsurprising before her Q&A performance, but even she knew that she bombed Q&A, so she was evidently surprised, happily surprised when she got MGI. And Nicole Borromeo, of course, got Miss International. I want to talk a little bit about Nicole Borromeo. Let's talk about Nicole Borromeo because a lot of people are pretty sore that Nicole Borromeo got the top plum. First of all, Nicole wasn't at the press presentation at Binibining Pilipinas. So a lot of people said, where did they get her scores from? Because looking at the actual competition, although she did well, she was somewhere in the middle. She wasn't as memorable in swim. She wasn't as memorable in um, evening gown, maybe even Q&A, knowing that Q&A is supposed to be her strongest suit. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have people questioning why she won in the first place. Now, the only explanation that I can give you is that Binibining Pilipinas doesn't seem to just lock in on one important event, which is the press presentation, that they might have judged these girls from the onset of the competition, from the Santa Cruzan moving into the Grand Parade. Now, it doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't make sense, but they have observers there, and I really wouldn't be surprised if they had Nicole locked in because whether she makes an appearance or not, she does have the qualities that we are all looking for in a Miss International representation. Having said this, I do have a few realizations. I feel like it's high time for Binibining Pilipinas to really streamline everything and think about um, planning a preliminary competition because it just doesn't make sense to keep on guessing where they got the scores from. A lot of people are upset CJ did not make it. She did so well at the press presentation. People were upset that Cyril didn't make it, and she was really good at the national costume show. So, just to dispel all of these rumors, all of these hurt feelings, I think that Binibining Pilipinas should really consider doing a preliminary competition. Another realization is really the future of Binibining Pilipinas because as much as I enjoyed my stint watching it with friends at the actual venue, I also couldn't brush off the fact that Binibining Pilipinas really is hanging on a balance here. You have rumors of MGI leaving Binibining Pilipinas as a standalone pageant under ALV pageants. So they're not necessarily going to join Miss World Philippines, but they might stand alone as their own pageant under ALV production. So if this is so, we no longer have Miss Universe Philippines at Binibini, we no longer have Supra at Binibini, and there are strong rumors that MGI will also leave Binibini. So I really don't know where Binibini is headed, knowing that we already crowned our representative for 2023. And my fear is that come 2023, interest on Nicole might fizzle. So I really hope that things didn't turn out the way it did at Binibining Pilipinas. They were already on the right track. Everything was just so glossy. Everything was just so well thought out. But in the end, the proof really is in the pudding. The proof really is at the final show. And unfortunately, it wasn't the best showing. And some people are even saying that this is the worst edition. So yeah, it's a little sad because I myself have rooted for Binibining Pilipinas. I'm still rooting for Binibining Pilipinas. Binibining Pilipinas is still my local pageant of choice. But yes, we cannot dismiss the fact that they may be listening to our suggestions, but it's just not translating. So I guess moving forward, if this franchise is to continue, they really have to be more aggressive and they have to make a smoother transition in using traditional activities and marrying them with virtual activities and really making more use of these virtual platforms. So having said this, thank you so much, guys. You guys have helped me a lot in preparing for watching Binibining Pilipinas. You guys have helped me arrange for a hotel stay, something that's on my bucket list as a pageant fan, to stay at the Novotel and not be so exhausted going from the venue to my hotel. So I was really happy for that. And guys, thank you so much. I know this is quite long, but like what I said, just give me some time and I'm gonna make himay everything for you. So I wish all of our girls well. I know that there is still some controversy brewing around, but I'm really very happy for our girls, and I am really very happy for just the opportunities that will come along.